a nuestro panel. Lo siento, pero vamos a hablar solamente en inglés porque no puedo hablar sobre empresas y startups en español. Mi español es mejor para la playa, para una cerveza. So cambiamos. No. So welcome to our session. The title, I always like to start by setting the stage, right? And the title is Geopolitical Foresight for Ecosystem Strategy. And I remember I emailed my panelists and I said, I don't know what that means. I really don't know. And then we read the description a little bit further down, which said, shifting geopolitical dynamics is reshaping the priorities and opportunities within the defense tech ecosystem. This session will examine how founders, investors, and policymakers can apply blah, 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 very, very long to get to that. So what we've done is we've tried to make this much more actionable, much more clear. And so we've rebranded it to what kind of defense ecosystem will Europe need in 2035? So if we look ahead 9 years, what does the European defense ecosystem need to look like to be successful? And so to that, we brought a fantastic panel together. Maybe I'm going to ask them just to introduce themselves and their companies just for 30 seconds each, but maybe Alvaro, you can start.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure being here. Our company makes unmanned helicopters, tactical helicopters for surveillance ISR in maritime environments mostly. So we make a 25 kilograms helicopter that takes off and lands on vessels. We are deployed in Indonesia, Hellenic Coast Guard, now here in Spain with the Guardia Civil and with the Spanish Armada. And we've been in this business, maybe I could say too soon. We started 13 years ago when the demand was not as high as it is right now, and when the environment was a little bit calmer. And now everything has been evolving quite fast.
And you guys are based here in Madrid, right?
We are based here in Madrid, yeah, that's right.
Perfect. Okay, and the other side of the pond, Tim, maybe you could talk a little bit about your company as well.
Yeah, Tim Chrisman with Havoc AI. We make software that allows a single operator to control fleets of autonomous vehicles, be those land, air, or sea vehicles. We are primarily based in the US. We have sales and contracts in negotiation from Singapore and Taiwan all the way over here to Europe. And we've got about 25,000 hours of autonomy under our belt, where we've been able to iterate and improve and allow in GPS-denied environments a single operator to control over 40 vehicles simultaneously.
Very good. Please.
Good morning. My name is Samuel Juarez. I work for the Madrid City Council. We are an office for investment attraction. We accompany enterprises, companies from all over the world in their process to settle in Madrid. We trying to ease their process to establishing our city. We help them with whatever they can need. And defense tech is one of the areas of work for our office since our strategic plan that we made for the next years. We identified this area as one of the most interesting in order to build a nice ecosystem of defense tech here in Madrid. We have the foundations, and we hope to be useful to contribute to that construction.
Good. And my contribution to this overall, I suppose, is I'm with a London-based pan-European seed stage venture capital fund. So we write checks from €500,000 up to €2.5 million into early stage companies wherever they might be in sort of greater Europe. Obviously, defense tech is an area of interest for us now. I'm really struck by, if this was South Summit just before COVID, so 2019, there would not be a session on defense tech at all. It wouldn't be in the realm of possibility. There would be no audience here for something like this. So things are changing very rapidly out there, right? It's interesting. By the way, I'm also aware that talking about European defense tech, we have 2 Americans on this panel. So I do recognize that's probably actually part of what's going on in the broader ecosystem as well, right, to have that. Tim, I was going to start with you, because you write and blog and talk a lot about sort of geopolitical environment. Can you give us just sort of a range of scenarios for what European defense, the geopolitical world will look like in 2035? Now, I know we could honestly spend days on that, but just some very high-level potential scenarios.
Yeah, no, I think that sort of the most likely case is an increasingly fragmented world where more and more it is countries attempting to do things on their own, small pockets of cooperation. We are unlikely over the next 7 to 10 years to see a return to that multi-state cooperative world that has defined really the post-World War II era. The worst case scenario is a conflict between US and China, which pulls US focus and US assets away from Europe and allows for a revisionist Russia to be more expansive, more aggressive without any check from the US, and forces Europe to go it alone.
That's quite depressing. What's the best case scenario? You gave us the worst case scenario. What's the best case?
Best case, I think, is where we see a Europe and an Asia and elsewhere. We see these countries that have the technological drive, innovation. They have stable governments. They've got militaries with capability that work together, that don't give in to the instinct that is in the popular zeitgeist to retrench, to keep everything for themselves and be in competition with everyone. I think there is a world where we retain that cooperative spirit.
Excellent. I won't ask you to put probabilities or percentages against that because I know it's impossible, and we don't endorse anyone getting on the betting sites or the prediction markets. I'd like to put out a question and talk about what we can imagine in 2035. So, as I said, we're going to really try to put ourselves in our shoes, I suppose, 9 years from now. I was going to put a question to each one of you. We wake up 2035, and Europe discovers it's got one thing incredibly wrong about its defense and sovereignty. Is that autonomy? Is it manufacturing, supply chains, purchasing, talent? What goes wrong? What's the worst case scenario for European defense? I'll start with you, actually, Alvaro.
I would say it's demand. I think Europe has been relying on the US to defend itself, and relying on the NATO alliance. And right now, that has demonstrated not to be enough. And I think Europe has to wake up. Europe has to build their own defense, build their own capabilities, and build it on scale.
Perfect. Tim?
Yeah, and I think the biggest mistake would be thinking that larger budgets equate to larger capability. That just because more euros are put into defense budgets, that is going to mean there is better capability on the other side. So I think that really staying focused on the capability per euro is going to be helpful.
That's great. And Sam?
Well, in my opinion, the worst scenario for 2035 would be not to understand that the world has changed dramatically, and so we must plan our defense consequently. So we should try to cooperate with other states, with like-minded states. But the bipolar world is over. We are in a multipolar world. We have to have our own capabilities. But that doesn't mean that we don't cooperate. We don't try to maintain interoperative systems with like-minded countries in order to keep some alliances. But some autonomy in general, I'm thinking about supply chains, etc., is desperately needed. Yeah.
The great thing about what most of us do is by operating within sort of early stage companies, growing companies, disruption is actually a good thing, right? If this was sort of 10 years ago, there was a way of doing things. The prime sold to the military, you sold to NATO, and that was it. Now we're in a world of change across multiple different vectors, and that creates massive opportunity for early stage companies. Alvaro, you mentioned up front that you were almost too early into this space, and so I'm wondering if you could tell us sort of what you've seen change over the last 5 years and why you're like super excited for your company for the next 10 years. Is it the ability to speak to the senior people? Is it budgets? Is it the desire to partner with smaller companies? What's changed?
I think that definitely what has changed the most is the opinion about drones, the opinion about technologies, the opinion about startups on the defense sector. I think 10 years ago, defense or ministries were relying mostly on prime contractors, big contractors, because they thought that these big companies, established companies, were the ones able to provide on demand and provide high technologies. And now it has been demonstrated that startups can scale up, startups can evolve faster. And we have that example both in Europe and in the US.
So you want to send a thank you note to Mr. Putin for the invasion of Ukraine. It's really helped your business and
Well,
the desire.
We always have a positive side on everything.
No. Tim, you're based in Washington, D.C., I think you said, but you're sitting here today in Spain. Now, Madrid is a lovely city to come and visit, and you're both seeing the Pope and you're going to the Bad Bunny concert,
Exactly.
I think.
Yep.
But besides that, I suspect you're also here for potential customers as well. So what's changed with regards to your ability or the interest from Europe in your technology?
Yeah, no, so I think what's changed is a sense of urgency. The European militaries have, for a long time, had that urgency internally. There's now the political will to translate that urgency into actual action. I've been struck how, over the last 20 years, many European militaries were deployed alongside me and my comrades in Iraq and Afghanistan. But the European populations, the European politicians, it wasn't real. It didn't feel urgent. And now, over the last 5 years with Ukraine, there has been a resurgence of an understanding that there is a threat on Europe's doorstep.
Yes, and Sam, how have things changed from your perspective? Yeah.
Well, I agree with the last two interventions. There's been a lot of changes in the ecosystem with the eruption of startups as actors in the defense area. Our main problem now is how to accelerate that integration in all the processes for them to become really useful.
Yeah.
And also in the political side, because politicians have been many years reducing in Europe their budgets for defense. 2% was a ceiling. Now 2% became a baseline. So where is the political will, where the money is? It's very, very easy. So it changed dramatically and for good, I understand.
Yeah, I mean, it is fascinating as well, because I mean, if I mention what the US president would say, Spain was always a laggard in defense spending across the board.
Yes,
and
yes.
now you have sort of programs to actually help promote defense companies actually building from here. So it's fantastic to see. I think it's important.
Yeah,
as well.
we have to have some political questions around that. Yeah.
Got it. I heard a story one time, which is probably not true, because that's the way things happen, which is that the British military, if they want to launch one of their fighters, need to call the US to get a code to be able to then plug it in to be able to launch. So the entire UK aerial defense system is fully dependent on the US, which is probably not a great situation to have. So that made me think, and it'd be fun to ask you guys, I mean, should Europe, so sovereignty is actually incredibly important in this, but how should Europe think about sovereignty if it actually means a worse defense, poorer technologies, worse technologies? Is that a trade-off that Europe should be willing to make?
I think so. I think we should invest in our sovereignty, and I think it's quite important to do it, but to do it as a whole, to do it as Europe. We have different forces, and each country could be an specialist on something, but if we are willing to develop something for each country, I think the market is not as big as the States is, and it could be too segregated. And I think this is one of the current problems of Europe. So we should do it definitely, even if that means that in the short term we will have not as good technology for a while, but we should do it as a whole.
Tim, does it ever come up when you speak to Europe that actually they want kind of strategic independence, and you're obviously an American company selling into Europe?
Yeah, no, I mean, we hear this beyond just Europe. The desire to have more control and sovereignty over what is built, the data, the algorithms, and the hardware. And I think that there is a very good case for why countries should keep some capabilities, some supply chain sovereign. But to your point, Albert, like, yes, there should be cooperation. What does Spain do better? And where can they then partner with Poland? And vice versa.
Got it. Sam, do you have any thoughts on this?
Well, I believe that sometimes some systems have to be bought abroad because you need it urgently or for any reason. But in general, you need to secure the supply, the maintenance on time, even in a conflict. And when there is a conflict, companies, by law, have to focus in their own country first. So if we rely too much in others, we risk not having that replacement or that software authorized or whatever. And so I believe that this is a balance that there, and at this moment is completely unbalanced to one side, and we should rebalance that.
Yeah, got it. Perfect. I'd like to maybe pivot a little bit and talk about sort of growing early stage ventures in Europe as well now. And Alvaro, you spoke a little bit about sort of some of the changes that you saw in the last few years. What's going forward? What is the sort of the most exciting thing for you guys as far as the opportunity to sell into these governments? Are they much more open than they were in the past? Are you really seeing a change? Are you seeing them much more open to working with early stage companies?
Yeah, well, definitely governments are much more keen to work with early stage companies. There are more exercises to be prepared by the defense agencies to test and validate the technologies. Now, if you want, you can go to Ukraine and you can demonstrate your systems, your capabilities in different levels of complexity, and closer to the real warfare scenario. And this is the opportunity that startups are having right now, that if they have key technology like GPS denied navigation, things like that, they can go there, show it, and then have the support to scale it up.
Got it, okay. Yeah. I was going to ask you, Tim, what's the biggest bottleneck you see in selling into Europe or building in Europe from what you see? Because you probably interact with a lot of other early stage companies as well. As you look at the European defense ecosystem, are there major bottlenecks for companies becoming as big as Havoc AI is, right? Because you guys are obviously a very big, I think you're 400 employees, raised $380 million. I mean, that's sort of the goal for a lot of European defense new companies. But yeah, what's the bottleneck for European businesses right now?
Yeah, I think it is the combination of capital and speed, the speed of acquisition for capabilities. With Havoc, we're just over 2 years old, and we've been able to grow.
Sorry, I have to interrupt you. 2 years old,
2 years.
Raised how much money again?
So we're about 300 million total raised.
And how many employees?
A little over 200.
I mean, that is amazing. That is the speed and scale which I think we are based here in Europe need to try to emulate to be able to build at that rate, right? I mean, that's incredibly impressive. And I assume some big contracts as well with different players in the U.S. Government as well. So.
And so we have the combination of investors who understand that defense contracts take a long time, and that early procurement signals are likely to turn into large contracts, and so they make those bets. But there's also been a real urgency in the U.S. to test new equipment, buy it even in small quantities, and then start pushing through those larger procurement contracts. So I think it's having that combination that has really helped us.
Wow. I'm blown away by 2 years and growing to that scale. That's incredibly impressive. I guess, Sam, the question for you then is, what can Madrid do to help the next Havoc AI build here in Spain, right, as opposed to the US? What are the programs that you guys have to help attract companies here?
Well, we try to foster the ecosystem of startups around defense tech in order to build a good community of collaboration. We are not thinking right now about a big company, but to gain capabilities in the areas where we are more weak at this moment. And we think that we have the base of big companies like Indra, like Boeing here in Madrid, and what we need is to construct that other community of small companies in which the problem where we detected is the scaling of those companies. There are a lot of talent, a lot of innovation, have a lot of ideas, but the problem for them is to scale and to have access to procurement, because this industry has just one customer. So that's the main question right now.
Yeah, the capital is a big issue, and I see that. As an early stage investor, there's many funds like me that can write checks from €500,000 up to €5 million. We have very few funds in Europe that can write a $200 million check into a company and make a big statement bet saying this company is going to be successful. You don't have to worry about fundraising for the next 5 years. Just go build your technology and get it out there and sell it. So I'd like to now give each of you a hypothetical. So if I was to hand, speaking of big checks, each of you €1 billion and say you need to invest in one specific capability for European defense, what would it be? You can't say your own company as well. So you can't say sort of vertical takeoff and landing helicopters. What's the biggest weakness in European defense sovereignty where you would take €1 billion and invest?
Well, I think there are already examples of companies that are on the unmanned, and now unmanned, it is very wide. It's one-way effectors, it's surveillance, it's counter drone systems, it's radio relay systems. So there are companies that already receive quantities in various rounds, but they already receive similar quantities, and they are doing a pretty good job on scaling up these capabilities and providing this at scale in Europe, and with the capability of changing and maturing this technology on a daily basis. So they are in Ukraine, they are evolving the technology, and the product that they have today, it's not the same that the one that they had 1 year ago. So I believe that this is one of the key aspects.
Tim, where would you spend, or invest, I should say?
I think it would be those, what's normally thought of as boring capabilities, logistics, supply chains, transportation, things that are required to make the national security engine drive, invest in the sovereignty of the different countries to be able to supply their own spare parts and ammunition, because I think that's going to have an exponential payoff in the near term.
Got it.
Well, in defense budgets, 1 million is not that much. So, from my point of view, from the point of view of my agency, that would be very well invested in creating a defense tech venture fund in order to help those companies scaling up and entering the cycle of procurement. So that's from our perspective the most intelligent way to help create that environment that we would like to construct and to do it quickly.
Yeah. Just my view on that. I was thinking about the biggest bang for the buck, because you're right, actually €1 billion in defense is next to nothing. Doesn't even buy you sort of one aircraft, one helicopter, right? Not even close to that. But I was thinking the biggest bang for the buck is what the North Koreans do, right? So offensive hacking, basically. Being able to get in there and take down bank systems, power plants, all that sort of stuff. But let's not sort of get into that too much, because it gets quite deep and dark, right, with that sort of stuff. Given we've got 3 minutes left and we have a couple of questions on here still, maybe we could do just a couple of rapid-fire ones and blast through them. So, and again, not trying to be too negative, but What's an area where you guys think that founders are spending a lot of time, investors are putting money into, but you actually don't think it'll generate the reward? It's sort of an area that could fail, unfortunately. What do you guys see? What are you worried that people are getting too excited about that won't generate the return needed? Is there a specific sector or type of technology that you're worried about?
Related to defense, but it's also on the civilian sector, I do believe that the aerial taxis has a lot of hype today.
Yeah.
I think we already had one example of a German company failing.
Lithium.
After investing a billion. And I think that has dual use, both civilian and military, but I don't think the business model works because we have the standard helicopters that do the same and do it faster with better capabilities. So,
yeah. So I mean, I think that there's a lot of hype right now around how to adapt generative AI to the military, and it sounds cool, it sounds exciting, but I think that the amount of safety that is required to make something like that work is outside the timeline that a lot of investors are hoping for. So I think that's something that, while it may help in the future, is going to be a disappointment in the near term.
Yeah, well, I am not an expert in the field of defense itself, but I will say that any company developing new products or something should have a closer look to what is around them. But because many times, more frequently than we think, we see people reinventing the wheel. So that's my main concern.
Perfect. I think we'll leave it there, but I want to thank you guys. I mean, we've got someone helping build ecosystems, we've got a pioneer in the European defense tech ecosystem, and a company that's scaling like crazy. So thank you guys very much for your thoughts. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.